And acts as a family man.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of time. I pick the kids up from school every day. I wait outside school at 3 o'clock. We have a lot of time because we finish training at 1. And it's not like a 9-to-5 job where, you know, you come home at 5 o'clock, you have your tea, you go to bed. So we have a lot of time to kill. So most footballers are quite boring. You know, people expect you to come out with all these great things about what do you do with your spare time, hang gliding, I don't know, whatever. But, you know, if I'm feeling tired, I'll go home and go to bed. I'll get a video out and watch, or I'll stay with some friends in Liverpool and have lunch. And then, because I pick the kids up every day at 3 o'clock, as I mentioned before, and they go to school on my way from Liverpool to my house. So rather than going home and coming back to pick them up, I just go and have lunch until 2:30, then go and pick the kids up.
We mentioned Paul Merson. In an extraordinary season for football, there's been many controversies. And one of them, which interested me, was the race story at Old Trafford recently when Stuart Pearce apologised to Paul Ince over something he mentioned on the pitch. Have you come up against race a lot in your career, and is it something you've had to cope with?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot, not excessive racism, but racism is a problem with society. Racism is not a problem with football. Racism was around long before football, and it'll be around if football ever ends, long after football. So I think we have to address the issue in society as opposed to football. You can't say, get rid of racism in football, and then maybe society will follow. It's got to be the other way around. So I don't see why, if you're talking about people chanting at grounds, racist remarks at football stadiums, I don't see why, if there's racism out of football in everyday life, should all of a sudden we go to football matches and it doesn't happen. It will happen. What we can do is we can clamp down on it by saying, if there are any racist taunts, any racist chants, we're going to eject you from the stadium. It's still there. You just keep your mouth shut. So the fact that clubs are now clamping down, it's a start on racism in terms of overt racism, whereby you're not allowed to chant racist slogans or, you know, to give anyone racist abuse. Doesn't mean that you're getting rid of racism in football or in society. You know, it runs much deeper than that. So we're making an effort, but, you know, we're not making a big enough effort.
Do you have an opinion how we can help it in society as well?
Yeah, I think that total integration, if you're talking about schools, I think it's a tolerance of each other. The more we learn about each other. I was watching a program on television whereby a lot of schools now, well, one school in particular, they were doing, in terms of black-white racism, not necessarily Asian or Chinese or whatever, they were doing, schools were now doing African history, you know, so that you can appreciate other people and learn about other people's cultures and appreciate other people's cultures, because we don't understand other people's cultures. There's certain cultures I would go somewhere and you may say, well, why aren't we allowed to drink in Saudi Arabia? Why aren't we allowed to do that? And you can't understand that. And if you don't understand it, you brush it to one side. The more you know about it, and the more you can appreciate it, you know. So I think that it's more a tolerance of each other and not necessarily, you know, living with each other and going out with each other. It's just a tolerance and accepting people for what they are and their beliefs.
Have you ever been asked to talk about it to you know, a wider audience?
No, but I would love to.
Yeah.
I would love to.
Is that something you would like to do to break it down even further?
Yeah, definitely, because even if you're talking about, I get a lot of stick because I'm very laid back and placid about the whole thing, and people say, you know, you should really stand up and fight, and if anyone called you this or that, you should knock them out, and, you know. I look at racism in two ways. I look at it, if someone is chanting something at me, I may look at them and I may think, what is that person actually trying to tell me? If he calls me a black so-and-so.
Yes.
First of all, he's bringing it to my attention that I'm black, which I know already and which I'm proud of. So the fact that he's bringing it to my attention won't upset me, you know. Now, he may think he's upsetting me because he's bringing it to my attention. Because if you reverse it, you know, some certain instances, you talk to your friends, certain players, and they say, you know, you may have a chip on your shoulder, not me, but some black players may have a chip on their shoulder because sometimes they call us, you know, you fooling around, they may say, you white this, but we don't get offended. And of course they won't get offended, because how can it be detrimental to be called white in their eyes? You know? So the fact that you're trying to insult them, but they're not being insulted by being called white. So consequently, why should I be insulted by being called black? That's a different way of going into it. You could break it down in many different ways, and we'd be here all day if we were going to talk about it. But, you know, it's an interesting point.
Just talk a little bit about your boyhood in Jamaica. Did you play football there?
My father played football for Jamaica. So I played football since I could walk. In fact, I've got a picture of me in the crib with a football. My mother, and that is all I did since I was 3 or 4 years old. Played football non-stop. Never thought I'd be a professional footballer. Growing up in Jamaica, there's no professional football, so I knew that I would play club football for Jamaica, hopefully go on, play for Jamaica, get wherever we got, possibly never to the World Cup, whatever. But then my father got posted to England as military attaché.
What age were you when you came to England?
14. So even then, I didn't think about it then because we knew it was only going to be a 3-4 year posting, and then he was going to get recalled, so I was going to go back to Jamaica. Then Watford came in.
They just spotted you playing for a local side, I presume.
Yeah, a scout recommended me to them when I was playing for Sudbury Court. Bertie Mee came along, saw me, and Bertie's a very, very strict person. I don't know if you've ever come across Bertie. So my parents were very impressed with Bertie. My father's a colonel in the army, so he loved Bertie because Bertie's a very sergeant major type of person. So when Bertie actually came to the house, it was very formal, you know. The whole meeting was very formal between him and my parents, and my dad loved that, so he said, well, no problem with you staying here for Watford.
What has football bought you that you would never have been able to afford? I mean, do you like houses or cars or?
Nothing too excessive or too opulent. My wife has got a few opulent things, but not me. I bought her a lot of opulent. But no, football has given me everything, but none of us know whether we would have been able to afford it. You know, because I had a chance of going to Washington University on a football scholarship before I signed as a professional footballer here. That was one of the choices, Jamaica, Washington, here. And had I gone to Washington University, had I gone back to Jamaica, who knows what would have happened? You know, we all say, well, if I didn't have football, I'd have nothing, but we can never tell. I could have gone to America and become a baseball player. I mean, I don't know. Maybe nothing to do with sport, gone into television. We really don't know. So you can't say what football has given me that I wouldn't have had, but what it has given me is everything that I've got now.
Is there something John Barnes would like to achieve still?
Football-wise, we want to go and win the league and the cup, and I want to win Player of the Year again. Possibly not this year. I think Matthew Letizia has got that one cornered. I voted for him anyway. But, you know, next year, individual awards, fine. But if football-wise, yeah, it's all repetition. You know, just to be as successful as I have been in the past, internationally, to stay in the international team for the European Championships, and for England to win the European Championships with me in the team. With me not in the team, we still like them to win as well, but preferably with me in the team. And apart from that, just to be happy, you know, because people talk to you about, does money make you happy? What makes you happy? And whatever it takes to make you happy.
But you're happy now, though.
I'm happy now, and it's not necessarily the money. It's not necessarily anything. You can't put your finger on it. But I think that anyone who can achieve happiness, you know, is a very lucky person. Outside of football, I'm talking about now, away from life. And as long as I'm happy for the rest of my life.
But I mean, if you had to retire tomorrow, you wouldn't have any regrets or concerns. You would retire a happy person.
I would be very disappointed because I would still think I have a lot to offer. You know, having to retire is not a good thing. You know, after Gordon Strachan has decided to retire, that is the way I would like to do it, rather than having to retire or to be told to retire.
Told, yeah.
So, you know, if I had to retire, I would be very disappointed. I don't think I'll be happy.
John, I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much for talking to us one-to-one.
You're welcome.